The command center of the alien ship buzzed with excitement. Admiral Zixithera stood in front of a giant screen that showed space filled with broken human ships. His scaled hands gripped the metal rail as he watched the last pieces of human vessels drift in the dark. "The humans are finished," said Commander Veltok, his second in command. The tall alien's 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Their final fleet is destroyed. Earth is now defenseless." Around them, other aliens from the Kethvar coalition celebrated. Some had scales like Admiral Zixithera. Others looked like giant insects with sharp claws. A few had smooth gray skin and large black eyes. All 5 alien races had come together for one purpose: to end the human threat forever. The battle at Proxima had lasted 3 days. The humans fought hard, but they never had a real chance. The coalition had 800 ships, the humans only had 50. It was not even close to being fair. Admiral Zixithara remembered the final message from the human commander. Captain Jake Morrison had refused to surrender even when his ship was breaking apart. "Humanity will never give up," Morrison had said before his ship exploded in a bright flash of light. "Foolish humans," Zixithera muttered. "They think courage can beat superior numbers and better weapons." The coalition had been planning this war for 3 years. Humans were spreading too fast across the galaxy. They built colonies on planets that other races wanted. They made deals that hurt alien trade. Worst of all, they never asked permission before taking what they needed. "Sir," called out a young Kethvar officer from his station, "we are receiving surrender messages from the remaining human outposts. They know they cannot fight us anymore." Zixithara nodded with pleasure. The plan had worked perfectly. First, they destroyed the human military. Now they would take Earth itself. After that, the surviving humans would work as slaves for the coalition races. Down in the prison levels of the ship, Captain Lisa Rodriguez sat in her small cell. The metal walls were cold and the air smelled bad. She could hear the aliens celebrating through the thick doors. They thought they had won everything. Lisa had been captured 2 months ago when her ship was destroyed near the Centauri system. The aliens kept her alive because they wanted information about human defenses. She had told them nothing useful, but they did not know that. The cell door opened with a loud hiss. 2 Kethvar guards walked in. Their scales were dark green and their eyes were yellow like old brass. "The war is over, human," said the first guard. His voice was rough and hard to understand. "Your people are defeated. Soon you will watch us burn your homeworld." Lisa looked up at them but said nothing. The guards wanted her to cry or beg. She would not give them that satisfaction. "Nothing to say?" asked the second guard. "Good. Your words mean nothing now anyway." After they left, Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they knew everything about human military plans. They were wrong. What they had destroyed at Proxima was not the real human fleet. It was a decoy. Ships that were old and ready to be scrapped anyway. The real human fleet was somewhere else entirely. Lisa did not know where, but she knew it existed. Captain Morrison had died to protect that secret. So had thousands of other brave humans. Admiral Zixithara walked to the large window that showed the stars. His fleet was already moving toward Earth. In 2 weeks, they would arrive at the human homeworld. The few ships left there would not be able to stop them. "Prapar, the victory message," he told his communications officer. "Send it to all coalition worlds. Tell them the human threat is ended forever." The officer began typing the message on his control panel. Around the command center, aliens from all 5 races worked together. Usually they did not like each other very much, but their hatred of humans had brought them together like nothing else could. "Sir," said Commander Veltok, "what should we do with the human prisoners?" Zixithara thought for a moment. "Keep them alive for now. When we reach Earth, we will need them to convince other humans to surrender without a fight. And after that? After that, they will work in the mining colonies until they die. It is what they deserve for challenging the natural order of the galaxy." The alien fleet moved through space like a dark cloud. 800 ships of different sizes and shapes, all united in their purpose. Some were as big as cities. Others were fast and deadly like metal sharks. All of them carried weapons that could destroy planets. In the communication rooms of the ships, alien technicians sent messages back to their home worlds. They told of great victory and the end of human expansion. They promised wealth and new territories for all coalition members. But in her cold cell, Lisa Rodriguez knew something the aliens did not. Humans were good at many things, but they were best at surviving when everything seemed hopeless. The coalition had won a battle, but the war was far from over. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. In her dreams, she saw human ships coming out of the darkness to surprise their enemies. She saw alien faces filled with shock and fear when they realized their mistake. The aliens thought they had killed humanity's spirit at Proxima. They would learn soon enough how wrong they were. Humans did not give up. They adapted. They planned. And when the time was right, they struck back harder than anyone expected. The victory celebration continued through the night as the alien fleet flew toward Earth. None of them noticed the strange readings their sensors were picking up near Jupiter. None of them paid attention to the small energy signatures that appeared and disappeared in the outer solar system. If they had been more careful, they might have wondered what was causing those readings, but they were too busy celebrating their victory to worry about small mysteries. Admiral Zixthera fell asleep in his command chair, dreaming of the moment when Earth would burn. He never imagined that somewhere in the darkness, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy exactly why underestimating humans was the last mistake anyone would ever make. The coalition fleet reached Earth's solar system like a storm cloud blocking out the sun. Admiral Zixithera stood on his bridge and watched 800 alien ships spread out in attack formation. Ahead of them, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. "There," pointed Commander Veltok. "The human fleet." Zixthera looked at the tactical display. 37 human ships waited near Earth's moon. They were arranged in a defensive line, but it looked pathetic compared to the coalition's massive force. "That is all they have left?" Zixthera asked with surprise. "Our intelligence was correct, sir. This is everything the humans can put into space. Their shipyards were destroyed weeks ago. These are the last ships they will ever build." The admiral studied the human formation more carefully. The ships looked old and worn. Some of them showed damage from previous battles. Their leader was flying a heavy cruiser called the USS Liberty. "Open a communication channel to the human commander," Zixithera ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the human ship. A woman with gray hair and tired eyes looked back at him. Her uniform was neat, but her face showed the strain of leading a hopeless fight. "I am Admiral Patricia Knox of the Earth Defense Force," she said in a calm voice. "You are trespassing in human space." Zixthera almost laughed. "Admiral Knox, you are facing 800 warships with 37 old vessels. Surrender now and your people will be allowed to live as workers for the coalition." "The people of Earth do not surrender," Knox replied firmly. "We will fight you with everything we have." "Then you will all die for nothing," Zixthera said, and closed the connection. He turned to his weapons officer. "Begin the attack. Target their largest ships first. Let them see how hopeless this is." The coalition fleet opened fire. Bright beams of energy crossed space and struck the human ships. The USS Liberty's shields flared and weakened under the assault. Other human vessels began taking damage immediately. But the humans fought back with everything they had. Their weapons were weaker than alien technology, but they aimed well. Several coalition ships took hits to their engines and weapon systems. The battle was one-sided, but the humans made their enemies pay for every advantage. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "the human ship defender is breaking apart. The cruiser Boston is venting atmosphere." Zixthera watched the human fleet slowly die. Admiral Knox's ship was surrounded by explosions as coalition weapons tore through its armor. The human commander kept fighting even as her vessel fell apart around her. "Stubborn creatures," he muttered. "They cannot accept when they are beaten." Down in her prison cell, Captain Lisa Rodriguez felt the ship shake as weapons fired. She pressed her face against the small window and saw the battle raging outside. Human ships were dying, but they were fighting bravely to the end. A part of her heart broke watching Admiral Knox's fleet get destroyed. These were good people who deserved better than this. But she also knew their sacrifice was not meaningless. They were buying time for humanity's real response. "Hold on," she whispered to herself. "Just a little longer." The battle continued for 3 hours. One by one, the human ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. The USS Liberty limped away from the fighting with its hull cracked and burning. Only 12 human vessels remained capable of fighting. "Sir," called the communications officer, "Admiral Knox is requesting permission to speak with you again." Zixathera allowed the connection. Knox's face appeared on the screen, but now she had a cut on her forehead and her uniform was torn. "This is your last chance," Knox said weakly. "Surrender now, or face the consequences." "You are threatening me?" Zixathera asked in disbelief. "Look around you, human. Your fleet is destroyed. Your world is defenseless. What consequences could you possibly threaten me with?" Knox smiled despite her injuries. "You will find out soon enough." The connection ended. Zixathera stared at the screen in confusion. What did the human commander mean? What could Earth possibly do against 800 alien warships? "Move the fleet into bombardment positions around Earth," he ordered. "Prepare to destroy their orbital stations and military installations." The coalition ships began moving into new formations around the planet. They had won the battle completely. Now they would force Earth's surrender by threatening to destroy every human city. But as the alien fleet repositioned itself, strange readings began appearing on their sensors. Something massive was moving in the outer solar system near Jupiter. The energy signature was enormous, bigger than anything they had ever recorded. "What is that?" Zixathera demanded, pointing at the display. "Unknown, sir," replied the sensor operator. "The readings are off the scale. It appears to be some kind of vessel, but the size calculations cannot be correct." "Why not?" "Because it would have to be larger than our biggest dreadnought. The humans do not have the technology to build something that size." Zixathera felt a cold sensation in his stomach. The strange energy readings from the missing scout ships. Admiral Knox's confident threat. The humans giving up too easily after fighting so hard at Proxima. "Full sensor sweep of the entire solar system," he ordered urgently. "Find out what is out there." Lieutenant Velshan, monitoring communications from her station, felt her suspicions confirmed. She had been right about the energy signatures. The humans had built something that the coalition did not understand. "Sir," she called out, "I am detecting massive gravitational distortions near the asteroid belt. Space itself appears to be bending." Before anyone could respond, the impossible happened. The space near their fleet began to ripple like water. Reality twisted and bent as something unimaginably large pushed through dimensions that should not exist. A ship materialized out of nothing. But calling it a ship was like calling an ocean a puddle. The vessel was the size of a small moon, its hull black as space itself. Strange weapons covered its surface like metallic scales. Energy patterns danced across its armor in colors that had no names. The coalition fleet stopped moving. 800 alien ships hung motionless in space, dwarfed by the massive human vessel that had appeared among them like a predator among sheep. "Impossible," Zixathera whispered. "The humans cannot build something like this." On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, Captain Ryan Foster stood before a command center that could have held the entire coalition fleet. Around him, 50,000 human crew members worked at stations that controlled weapons beyond alien understanding. "This is Captain Foster of the Terra's Wrath," his voice broadcast across all coalition frequencies. "You attacked our people. You destroyed our ships. You threatened our world. Now you face the consequences." Admiral Zixathera tried to speak, but no words came out. His scales had turned pale with shock. Around the bridge, his crew stared at the displays in disbelief. The humans had built something that should not exist. A ship that made their entire fleet look like toys. A weapon platform that appeared out of folded space itself. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zixathera understood what it meant to be completely outmatched. The coalition had come to Earth expecting to fight primitive humans with simple weapons. Instead, they had found something that would haunt their nightmares forever. Humanity had become something far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had ever imagined possible, and the real fight was just beginning. The silence in space was complete. 800 coalition ships hung motionless around Earth, their crews staring at the massive human vessel that had appeared from nowhere. The Terra's wrath floated among them, like a giant among children. Admiral Zixthera found his voice first. "This is impossible. Human technology cannot create ships of this size." Captain Foster's reply came from speakers throughout the coalition fleet. "You spent 3 years studying our old ships and outdated weapons. You never bothered to learn what we were really capable of building." On the bridge of the Terra's wrath, Dr. Alex Carter stood beside Captain Foster. After 5 years of secret work, their creation was finally ready to show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish when pushed too far. "Show them our weapons," Foster ordered quietly. The massive ship's hull began to glow with strange energy patterns. Weapons systems that had never been seen before powered up with a sound like thunder. The space around the Terra's wrath shimmered as reality itself bent to accommodate the forces being generated. Admiral Zixthera watched his tactical displays with growing horror. His sensors could not properly read the human ship's capabilities. The energy output was beyond anything in their databases. The weapon signatures made no sense according to known physics. "Sir," called his weapons officer with a shaking voice, "our computers cannot calculate the threat level of that vessel. It is reading as more dangerous than our entire fleet combined." Zixthera felt his world turning upside down. For 3 years, the coalition had prepared to fight primitive humans with simple technology. They had never imagined that humanity might be building something like this in secret. "Open fire," he ordered desperately. "All ships, target that vessel, with everything we have." 800 alien ships opened fire at once. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and fusion missiles filled space with deadly light. The combined firepower could have destroyed a dozen planets. The weapon struck the Terra's wrath and simply disappeared. The massive ship's shields absorbed every attack without even flickering. The humans had built defenses that made coalition weapons completely useless. "Impossible," Zixthera whispered again. Captain Foster's voice remained calm and steady. "Your turn is over. Now let me show you what real weapons look like." 3 small ports opened on the Terra's wrath's hull. They looked tiny compared to the ship's massive size, but the energy readings from them made coalition sensors scream warnings. Beams of pure white light reached out from the human ship. They passed through coalition shields as if they did not exist. The light touched 3 of the largest alien dreadnoughts, and the mighty warship simply ceased to be. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. They were there one moment and gone the next. The coalition fleet recoiled in terror. In 5 seconds, the humans had destroyed ships that represented centuries of alien engineering and thousands of lives. They had done it as easily as swatting insects. "Withdraw," Zixthera ordered frantically. "All ships, emergency retreat." "Negative," Foster's voice cut through their communications. "No one leaves this system until we have finished our conversation." The space around the coalition fleet began to glow with strange energy. Reality twisted and folded as the Terra's wrath deployed some kind of field that trapped the alien ships. Vessels that tried to jump to faster than light speed found their engines would not respond. "You are prisoners of the human race," Foster announced. "You came here to destroy us. Instead, you will learn what happens when you threaten Earth." Down in her cell aboard the coalition flagship, Captain Lisa Rodriguez felt the ship shake as its engines tried and failed to escape. She pressed her face to the window and saw the Terra's wrath filling half the sky. Even from this distance, the human ship was so large she could barely see its edges. The cell door burst open. 2 Kethvar guards rushed in, their scales pale with fear. "You knew," one of them accused. "You knew this ship existed." Lisa smiled calmly. "I knew humanity would never surrender. I knew you had underestimated us. But even I did not know about this." The guards looked at her with confusion and growing terror. Their mighty fleet had been reduced to helpless prisoners in minutes. Everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. Suddenly, the air in the cell began to shimmer. Lisa felt a strange tingling sensation as energy surrounded her body. The guards stepped back in alarm as the human captain began to fade away like a ghost. teleportation beam, Lisa explained calmly. Another technology you did not know we possessed. She vanished completely, leaving the guards staring at empty air. Lisa materialized on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, surrounded by more humans than she had seen in months. Captain Foster turned to greet her with a warm smile. "Welcome aboard, Captain Rodriguez. We have been waiting to bring you home." "How?" Lisa asked, looking around at the incredible technology surrounding her. "How did you build all this in secret?" Dr. Carter stepped forward to answer. "We started planning the moment we detected the first Coalition scout ships 5 years ago. While they were studying our public technology, we were developing things they could never imagine. The ship is built inside a hollowed-out asteroid," Foster explained. "We use the massive series itself as raw material. 50,000 of our best people have been working on this project in complete secrecy." Lisa walked to the main display and stared at the trapped Coalition fleet. 800 ships that had seemed so powerful were now helpless before human technology. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we teach the galaxy a lesson they will never forget," Foster replied grimly. Back on the Coalition flagship, Admiral Zix Thera tried desperately to contact his allies. The communication systems were being jammed by the human ship. His weapons were useless. His engines would not work. For the first time in his career, he was completely powerless. "Sir," Lieutenant Velshan approached his command chair carefully. "I tried to warn intelligence about the unusual energy readings. The data suggested the humans were developing advanced technology." Zix Thera turned to look at her. The young officer's scales were pale, but her eyes were steady. Unlike the rest of his crew, she did not seem surprised by what had happened. "You knew this was possible?" he asked. "I suspected the humans were more dangerous than our analysts believed. They are known for adaptation and innovation. It made sense that they would try to develop countermeasures to our superior numbers. Then, why did no one listen to you?" Velshan's expression was bitter. "Because everyone was too busy celebrating our victory to consider that it might be premature." Dr. Carter's voice suddenly filled every Coalition ship. His words were calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. "People of the Coalition, you came to our solar system to destroy humanity. You believed we were weak because our public technology was less advanced than yours. You made the mistake of thinking that what you could see was all we possessed." The display screens throughout the Coalition fleet showed images of the Terra's Wrath's interior, massive factories, laboratories filled with impossible technology, and weapon systems that belonged in nightmares rather than reality. For 5 years, while you planned our destruction, we prepared our response. We studied your technology and improved upon it. We built weapons that exist outside normal spacetime. We created defenses that make your attacks meaningless. The images changed to show Coalition ships being scanned by systems that revealed every detail of their construction. The humans knew everything about alien technology now. They could disable any ship without destroying it. They could teleport through any shield. They could bend space itself to their will. "You wanted to show the galaxy that humanity could be conquered," Carter continued. "Instead, you have taught every species that underestimating humans is a fatal mistake. Your fleets came here to end the human threat. They will leave here understanding that the threat was never what you thought it was." Admiral Zix Thera closed his eyes and tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The Coalition had superior numbers, better weapons, and centuries of military experience. They should have won easily. But they had forgotten the most important rule of warfare: know your enemy. And they had never really known humanity at all. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Proxima. The Coalition fleet moved through space like a slow river of metal and death. Admiral Zix Thera stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars grow brighter as they got closer to the human solar system. "Report," he ordered his navigation officer. "We will reach the outer edge of the Sol system in 4 days, sir," the officer replied. "Our scouts report no major human activity, just a few small patrol ships that ran away when they saw us coming." Zix Thera nodded with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. The humans were broken and scared. They knew they could not fight the Coalition's massive fleet. Behind him, representatives from the other 4 alien races discussed how they would divide Earth's solar system. The insect-like Trixani wanted the asteroid belt for its metals. Be the cow. Gray-skinned Morden claimed the gas giant Jupiter for its fuel resources. The plant-like Velshaw desired Mars for its minerals. The energy beings called the Zephyr would take the outer planets, and Earth itself belongs to the Kethvar, Zixthara reminded them. We led this war. We deserve the greatest prize. The other alien leaders agreed, though some of them did not look happy about it. They all wanted Earth, but they needed Kethvar military strength to win the war. Now they had to live with their agreement. Down in the ship's intelligence center, analysts studied reports from their advanced scouts. Most of the information was exactly what they expected. Earth had very few ships left. The orbital defense stations were old and weak. The human military seemed completely broken. But there were some strange things in the reports. 3 scout ships had gone silent near the edge of the solar system. Their last messages mentioned unusual energy readings before all contact was lost. Probably human survivors in hidden bases, said Intelligence Chief Morgak. Desperate attacks from ships hiding in asteroids. Nothing to worry about. Lieutenant Velshan, a young Kethvar officer, was not so sure. She had studied human tactics for 2 years before the war started. Humans were tricky. They liked to use surprise attacks and clever plans. Sir, she said carefully, maybe we should investigate these disappearances more closely. Morgak's scales turned darker with annoyance. The humans are finished, Lieutenant. Do not waste time looking for threats that do not exist. Velshan said nothing more, but she kept studying the reports. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. The humans had given up too easily after fighting so hard at Proxima. In her prison cell, Captain Lisa Rodriguez counted the days. The guards had stopped visiting her regularly. They were too excited about reaching Earth to bother with one human prisoner. This gave her time to think and plan. She had noticed changes in the ship's movement patterns. The aliens were being more careful now, sending scouts ahead and taking longer routes around certain areas. They were worried about something, even if they would not admit it. Lisa remembered her training at the Human Defense Academy. Admiral Patricia Knox had taught all officers about something called the long game. Sometimes you had to lose battles to win wars. Sometimes you had to let your enemy think they were winning while you prepared your real response. Patience, Lisa whispered to herself. Patience and faith. Far away from the Coalition fleet, near Jupiter's largest moon, Europa, Dr. Alex Carter worked without sleeping. His underground laboratory was hidden beneath 2 miles of ice. No alien sensors could detect it. For 5 years, Carter had led humanity's most secret project. While everyone else prepared for war in the normal way, he had been building something completely different. Something that would change everything. Status report, he called out to his team of 50 scientists and engineers. Power core at 98%, replied Dr. Nancy Brooks, his second in command. Weapon systems fully charged, cloaking field is stable. And the crew? Captain Ryan Foster reports all 50,000 personnel are ready for combat operations. Carter nodded and looked at the massive screen that showed their creation. Even after 5 years of work, he could barely believe they had actually built it. The Terra's Wrath was not just a ship. It was a floating city, a weapon platform, and humanity's ultimate response to alien aggression. How long until the Coalition reaches Earth? Carter asked. 4 days, sir. Our agents report the alien fleet is moving in standard formation. They suspect nothing. Carter smiled for the first time in weeks. Good. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they understand what they're dealing with. Back on the Coalition flagship, Admiral Zixithara received another report from his scouts. 2 more ships had vanished near Saturn. This time, the last message mentioned something about impossible energy readings and space itself bending. Commander, Veltok brought the report to the Admiral's attention. Sir, we have now lost 5 scout ships. Perhaps we should investigate. Zixithara studied the data for several minutes. The disappearances were spread across different areas of the solar system. There was no pattern that made sense. Random attacks by desperate humans, he decided. They are using their last ships to slow us down. It will not work. But privately, Zixthera was beginning to worry. He had fought many wars in his long career. Usually, when an enemy was truly defeated, they stopped fighting entirely. They did not waste their last ships on pointless attacks against scout vessels. Double the scout patrols, he ordered, and tell all ships to maintain full alert status. Yes, sir, Veltok replied. Should we also increase our sensor sweeps? Do it. I want to know about every piece of space dust between here and Earth. The order went out to the entire fleet. 800 ships began scanning space with every sensor they had. They found nothing unusual. Whatever was destroying their scouts was either very small or very well hidden. On Earth, Admiral Patricia Knox stood in the underground command center beneath Colorado. The bunker was deep enough to survive a direct hit from alien weapons. Screens around the room showed the approaching coalition fleet. They will be here in 4 days, reported her communications officer. Dr. Carter confirms that Terra's Wrath is ready for deployment. Knox nodded grimly. She commanded 37 ships, all that remained of Earth's visible navy. Her job was to make the aliens believe these ships were humanity's last hope. She had to make them think they were winning right up until the moment everything changed. Signal. All ships, she ordered. Prepare for combat operations. We need to put on a good show. The human crews knew what was expected of them. They would fight bravely and lose convincingly. Some of them would probably die. But their sacrifice would help hide the truth about humanity's real response. Lieutenant Velshan continued studying the intelligence reports despite her superior's dismissal. She had found something interesting in the data from the lost scout ships. All of them had detected the same type of energy signature just before they vanished. It was not any kind of energy that appeared in alien databases. It was something completely new, something that bent space and time in ways that should have been impossible. She wanted to report this discovery, but she knew Chief Morgak would not listen. He had already decided the disappearances were not important. Arguing with him would only hurt her career. Instead, she quietly copied the data to her personal files. If her suspicions were correct, the coalition was flying into a trap. And if that happened, someone needed to understand what the humans had built. The alien fleet continued its journey toward Earth, confident in their victory. 800 ships against 37, advanced weapons against primitive human technology. There was no way they could lose, but in the darkness between the planets, something vast and terrible waited for them. Something that would teach the galaxy's oldest races that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. The coalition fleet hung motionless in space, trapped by technology they could not understand. Admiral Zixthera stared at the Terra's Wrath through his bridge windows, trying to accept that everything had changed in a single moment. Captain Foster's voice filled every coalition ship. You have a choice to make. Surrender unconditionally, or watch your entire fleet disappear like the 3 ships we just destroyed. Sir, Commander Veltok whispered urgently, what are your orders? Zixthera looked around his bridge. His crew watched him with fear in their eyes. They had come here as conquerors and become prisoners in minutes. The mighty coalition fleet was now completely helpless. How do we fight something like this? He asked no one in particular. Lieutenant Velshan stepped forward from her station. We cannot fight it, sir. The humans have technology that is decades ahead of ours, maybe centuries. Then what do you suggest? We surrender and hope they allow us to live. The words tasted like poison in Zixthera's mouth. He had never surrendered in 40 years of military service, but he had also never faced an enemy who could make his ships disappear with weapons that ignored all known laws of physics. On the Terra's Wrath, Dr. Carter watched the coalition fleet through advanced sensors that could read the thoughts of alien commanders. Fear and confusion filled every enemy ship. Their leaders were starting to understand how completely they had been outmatched. They are trying to decide whether to surrender or fight, reported the sensor operator. Let them think about it, Captain Foster replied, but not for too long. We need to send a message that the galaxy will remember. Foster turned to Dr. Carter. Are the recording systems ready? Yes, sir. Every moment of this encounter is being broadcast to coalition homeworlds through their own communication networks. Their people will see exactly what happened here. Foster nodded with satisfaction. It was important that every alien species understood what humanity had become. The age of treating humans as primitive newcomers was over. Admiral Knox's voice came through the communication system. The surviving ships of Earth's defense fleet were limping back toward the planet, their crews amazed by what they had witnessed. Terra's Wrath, this is Admiral Knox. I do not know how you did this, but thank you for saving our world. Admiral Knox, you and your people fought bravely, Foster replied. Your sacrifice gave us the time we needed to complete our preparations. What are your intentions for the Coalition fleet? Foster looked at the tactical display showing 800 trapped alien ships. That depends on how quickly they learn their lesson. Back on the Coalition flagship, Admiral Zixthera made his decision. Pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. His duty was to preserve as many lives as possible. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered quietly. Captain Foster's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Terra's Wrath stretched into the distance like a metal city. Thousands of human crew members worked at stations that controlled weapons, beyond imagination. I am Admiral Zixthara of the Kethvar Coalition, he said formally. I wish to discuss terms for surrender. There are no terms to discuss, Foster replied firmly. You will surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. Those are your only choices. Zixthara felt his pride break like glass. What guarantees do we have that you will not simply destroy us after we surrender? You have the guarantee that humanity is not as cruel as the Coalition. We do not enjoy killing, even when our enemies deserve it. And our crews? Our ships? Your crews will be returned to your homeworlds with a message. Your ships will remain here as a reminder of what happens when someone threatens Earth. The alien admiral closed his eyes for a moment. 800 of the Coalition's finest warships captured without a real fight. It was the worst military disaster in galactic history. I surrender, he said quietly. The Coalition fleet surrenders, unconditionally to humanity. Across the trapped fleet, alien commanders repeated the same words. Species that had ruled space for thousands of years submitted to humans they had thought were primitive and weak. Foster's expression remained stern. All Coalition vessels will power down their weapons and shields immediately. Any ship that does not comply will be destroyed. The order went out through the alien fleet. One by one, 800 warships went dark as their crews shut down all combat systems. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been reduced to helpless metal shells. Transport beams will collect your senior officers for processing, Foster continued. Your crews will remain on their ships until we decide what to do with them. Sparkles of light began appearing throughout the Coalition fleet as human teleportation. Technology pulled alien commanders from their bridges. Admiral Zixithera felt the familiar tingling sensation as the beam surrounded him. He materialized in a large chamber aboard the Terra's Wrath. Around him, hundreds of other Coalition officers stood in confused groups. The room was so vast that the far walls disappeared into shadows. Captain Foster and Dr. Carter stood on a raised platform overlooking the assembled prisoners. Behind them, massive screens showed images of Coalition homeworlds receiving news of the fleet's surrender. You came to Earth to teach humanity a lesson about power, Foster announced to the gathered officers. Instead, you learned something about yourselves. You learned that being old and experienced does not make you wise. You learned that having superior numbers does not guarantee victory. The alien officers listened in sullen silence. Some still could not believe their mighty fleet had been defeated so easily. Most importantly, Dr. Carter added, you learned that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake your species could make. Admiral Zixithera stepped forward from the crowd. What happens to us now? You will be returned to your homeworlds, Foster replied. All of you, but you will carry a message with you. What message? That humanity tried to live in peace with the galaxy. We built colonies quietly and traded fairly with all species. We asked for nothing except to be left alone. Foster's voice grew harder. But you could not accept that. You saw our expansion as a threat to your power. You united 5 species to destroy us completely. The screens around the chamber showed images of human colonies burning, human ships being destroyed, human prisoners being tortured. 3 years of coalition attacks that had killed millions of innocent people. So we became what you forced us to become, Carter continued. We adapted. We innovated. We built weapons that exist outside your understanding of reality. The galaxy now knows that humanity cannot be conquered, Foster concluded. We tried peace and you answered with war. We tried cooperation and you responded with genocide. Now you will live with the consequences of those choices. Admiral Zixithera understood. Humanity had not just defeated the Coalition fleet. They had shown every species in the galaxy that humans were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. When will we be released? Asked a Trixani commander. When your homeworlds agree to our terms, Foster replied. Complete withdrawal from all human territory, payment for damages caused by 3 years of war, and most importantly, a guarantee that no coalition species will ever threaten humanity again. And if our governments refuse, Foster smiled coldly, then we will visit each of your homeworlds personally. We will show them the same mercy you plan to show Earth. The alien officers looked at each other with growing fear. The humans were not making empty threats. They had the power to destroy entire planets if they chose to use it. Dr. Carter gestured toward the screens showing coalition homeworlds. Your people are already beginning to understand what happened here. They see 800 ships surrendering to one human vessel. They know their strongest fleets could not protect them from humanity's response. The age of treating humans as second-class citizens is over, Foster announced. From now on, we will be treated as equals or as enemies. The choice is yours. 1. By one, the coalition officers nodded their acceptance. They had no choice. Their fleets were captured, their weapons were useless, and their homeworlds were defenseless against human technology. Admiral Zixithera looked around at his fellow prisoners and realized the truth. The coalition had not just lost a battle. They had lost their place as the galaxy's dominant powers. Humanity had tried to join galactic civilization peacefully. When that failed, they had built something that could force the galaxy to accept them on their own terms. The humans had won, more than just a war. They had won the right to determine their own destiny among the stars. And anyone who tried to stop them would face the same fate as the coalition fleet. As the alien officers were transported back to their ships for the journey home, Admiral Zixithera took one last look at the Terra's Wrath. The massive human vessel hung in space like a monument to the galaxy's new reality. Humanity had arrived and nothing would ever be the same again.